I've been wanting to make this video for a little while for a couple of reasons. One, I'd like to just share my experience with SVTs and the ablation procedure that I had done. Two, I just wanted to try making a YouTube video. It's something I've always been interested in. Hopefully this is not terribly boring. This will be my first attempt to make a video like this. But I wanted to share my experience because when I started really seriously considering the ablation procedure, I looked at videos like this and watched people's videos of them sharing their story with SVTs and whether or not they got the ablation. And it helped me make my decision. I'm 53 as of the recording of this video. I was 30 when I had my first SVT. I was on a golf course with my brother, and I jumped up to try to look over some hill or something. And when I landed, I noticed my heart was racing. I thought maybe at first it was just skipping, but moments later it didn't go away. It was still racing. So I told my brother, and he had already experienced this himself, so he had told me about what it does. It'll go away. It'll just run its course and it'll go away in a little while. So I wasn't too nervous about it. And it did. And maybe a year later it happened again. And it would happen from then on about once a year or sooner. Over the course of 10 or so years, it would gradually get worse. The time between SVTs would get shorter, and eventually I went to the emergency room with one because I didn't think it was going to end, but as soon as I got there, it went away. They told me that I should start seeing a cardiologist, and when I started seeing her, she had recommended or referred me to a electrophysiologist, I believe they're called, and started seeing this guy about 10 years ago. I would describe what was going on. Every once in a while I would wear a monitor, but I would never capture anything. But over the course of the 10 years, he would begin to tell me that if this was something that was becoming uncomfortable for me, I would be a good candidate for an ablation. And just knowing that was an option eased my mind. He told me that it was minimally invasive surgery. It was pretty effective, or very effective. But it still made me nervous about, the process of going under. But it still made me nervous about going under anesthesia and having the probes in me. But I, well, long story short, about a year ago, they started coming on quite a bit more frequent. And the more I talked to my doctor about it, he told me that that path just gets more established. So I would watch videos from people who have had the ablation, and it kind of eased my mind about the process. But I was still pretty nervous. The most difficult thing was to actually call and make the appointment for the ablation. But I started feeling this easing once I made that decision. I started getting looking forward to not having to deal with the SVTs anymore, because they had gotten to the point where it was every weekend, and sometimes I would try to ignore it and see if it would just go away on its own, but it wouldn't. It would just prolong the event. If I ignored it, it just seemed to be stronger. And every once in a while I would figure out a new trick to help terminate the SVT, but that only lasted for a little while until it was not effective anymore. So I made the appointment to get the ablation. The people at the hospital were great. They're very understanding of my nervousness. I remember I was concerned that I would be nauseous from the anesthesia, but that wasn't the case. I woke up from the procedure feeling the most relaxed and comfortable I think I have in a long time. My doctor came in afterwards and said that he had to give me a little bit of an adrenaline to get my heart rate up to find he called it, he's found an extra path. They ablated it and tried to induce the SVT again and couldn't get it going. So he told me he was 95% sure that he took care of what was happening with my SVTs. And so I wanted to make this video primarily because that was 6 months ago. And I thought it might be helpful for kind of a long-term point of view after the ablation. It's been great. I'm really glad I did it. There's no side effects. I was a little sore in my groin where they made the incisions to insert the probe. But other than that, it's great. I don't have to worry about being at a restaurant and getting an SVT. That was always in the back of my mind, no matter where I went. If I went on a trip somewhere, what happens if I get an SVT on the plane? Every time I would get one, I would be really wanting to be either at work or at home. I had one at a relative's house, and I had to excuse myself from what was going on and go lay down until it passed, which sucks. but not to have to worry about that anymore is awesome. The feeling that it's going to happen is still there, but it never latches on to a rapid heart rate. If the moment passes, it only takes a second or two, and it's over. And the first time I felt those, I thought, well, you know, that was nice while it lasted, but I guess it wasn't effective. But the moment would pass, and that feeling would go away, and I could continue on with what I was doing. Some of them are pretty convincing that it's going to go, but it passes, and it doesn't continue to race anymore. So after 20 years, it's nice not to have to worry about that anymore. And another factor that I was considering was, you know, if I happen to become an old man, having to deal with that, you know, in my 80s or even beyond, was not a pleasant thought. So that helped me decide to get the ablation. But I thought I'd share that with you guys, and if you're facing that decision to get the ablation, you're nervous about it, you're talking to a doctor that you trust, and they tell you you're a good candidate, then I would seriously consider it. Especially if you notice a trend with the SVTs of happening sooner and lasting longer. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Anyway, thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye.